Welcome to Attract the Career You Want and Deserve. I'm your host, Niels Reib, and I'm your career branding specialist. A couple of years ago, I was recommended to read The Go-Giver by someone in my network. And I gotta say, when I picked up that book, I just fell in love with the story about Joe, who was a really go-getter. And he just learns 5 laws of stratospheric success in this little awesome book here. On today's episode, we're going to be talking about those 5 laws that'll bring you both personal effectiveness and professional success. And can a subtle shift in focus really be that big of a difference in your career and in your income? Today's guest says absolutely yes to that. And Bob Burg is the author of books on sales, marketing, and influence, with a total book sales of well over 1 million copies. His book, The Go-Giver, is co-authored by John David Mann, has sold over 500,000 copies, and has just been reissued in an expanded edition with a foreword by Huffington Post founder and publisher Arianna Huffington. And it's also been translated into 21 different languages, and one of them being Danish, which is my language. Bob is a much sought-after speaker at sales and leadership conferences, and he's committed to inspiring the entrepreneurial spirit in us all. Welcome, Bob. I'm ecstatic to have you on here. I'm really honored that you've taken time to be with me here today.
Niels, the honor is mine. Thank you so much for having me as your guest.
It's really an honor, and I'm really looking forward to this. And to just jump in there to it, what's the story behind The Go-Giver, and how did the idea come about, this little magic book?
Well, years and years ago, I had a traditional how-to book called Endless Referrals, which was really for salespeople and entrepreneurs on how to establish relationships with people, where you would build that relationship based on know, like, trust, how to have an ongoing referral-based business. And it's something that it's still out today. It's in its 3rd edition, and it's done well, but it's a regular traditional how-to book.
Okay.
I've always loved reading business parables, though. Since I first got in sales, I think the first one I ever read was Og Mandino's Greatest Salesman in the World, and then James Classen's Richest Man in Babylon. And in the late 70s, early 80s, Ken Blanchard and Spencer Johnson had their 1-minute series, 1-minute manager, 1-minute salesperson, 1-minute apology. And there's all these great parables. And what I like about parables, reading them, is that in a short span, an hour, 2 hours, through a really fun story that connects with you, you can learn some really great things. And I thought, wouldn't it be a cool idea if we could take the idea from Endless Referrals, basically that all things being equal, people will do business with and refer business to those people they know, like, and trust. And how do you develop those kind of relationships? You give value to others. You focus on giving value to others, and put that into a parable. So I came up with the title and maybe some very sketchy character outlines, but I knew that writing a parable is a lot different from writing a how-to book, and that was outside of my strength zone. But fortunately, I knew John David Mann, who was editor-in-chief of a magazine I used to write for. And so I asked John if he would be the lead writer and storyteller of The Go-Giver, and he's just brilliant. So we collaborated on that and came up with The Go-Giver, which is a brief parable. It takes maybe an hour, 2 hours to read, whatever, and a fun story, hopefully. And fortunately, it's been a fun journey with that.
It's an awesome book, and I just talked to one of my friends not long ago, who I actually recommended this book to, and she told me that she was at the end, she was, her coffee got a little salty.
Well, that's the great writing of John David Mann, believe me. That's John.
Because he was really touched, with that story there.
Thank you. Tell her I said thank you, please.
Well, I'm going to be doing that for sure. So, Bob, give us a quick review of the 5 laws that The Go-Giver is all about.
Sure. And the 5 laws, the laws of value, compensation, influence, authenticity, and receptivity, are all based on the premise of the book, which you alluded to earlier, which is that shifting your focus, right? Moving from an I focus or me focus to an other focus. In other words, giving or looking for ways to provide value to others
Yeah.
is not only a nice way to live life and conduct business, it's actually a very financially profitable way as well. It's a way that is going to help you climb the corporate ladder. Doing that within a company is going to help you communicate so much value to your internal customers, right? Which is everyone you're working with, your supervisor, the owner of the company, the different customers. So it's going to actually, by doing this, help you in your career path, because what you're going to do is create such an experience of value for others that they're going to feel great about you, and they're going to know you, like you, trust you. So the 5 laws are really on how to take that basic premise and how to apply it. And we can go through those if you'd like.
I would love that. I mean, for sure. I mean, it's a book that I absolutely love. So I would love for you to share that with our viewers and listeners here.
Sure. Well, the first law, the law of value, says your true worth is determined by how much more you give in value than you take in payment. Now, when you first hear that, an entrepreneur might hear that and say, what? Give more in value than I take in payment? Aren't I going to go broke when I go out of business? But we have to understand the difference between price and value.
Yeah.
See, price is a dollar figure. It's a dollar amount. It's finite. It is what it is. Value, on the other hand, is the relative worth or desirability of something, of a thing, to the end user or beholder. In other words, what is it about this thing, this product, this service, this concept, this idea that brings so much worth to someone that they will willingly exchange their money for it and be glad they did while you make a healthy profit? In other words, you've provided such a fantastic buying experience for this person that they feel they got more in value than what they paid, which they did, and you make a profit. Now, for someone who works within a company, maybe you're not an entrepreneur, but you're certainly an intrapreneur. You're an entrepreneur within another organization. Your goal is to do the same thing. Give such great value as an employee. Do that extra step. Find ways to create value for your team, for the company, for the ownership, for the customer, whatever it is your job is. Find ways to provide so much more in value than what you take in payment. But of course, you're paid, and it's worth it to you, or you wouldn't be. But it's making you even more valuable to your employer and to others who might be watching. Okay. So law number 2 says, is the law of compensation. And this says your income is determined by how many people you serve and how well you serve them. So where law number 1 says to give more in value than you take in payment, law number 2 tells us that the more people whose lives you touch with that exceptional value, the more money with which you'll be rewarded. Now, again, as an entrepreneur, that makes sense. If you sell a widget to one person and create great value, fantastic, but you've got to help a whole lot of people with your widgets in order to make a great income. Well, it's the same even within your within the company you're working with. Obviously, you're providing value to X number of people, but the more ways you can find to add value that affects the lives of more people, the more financially valuable, the more market value you have within that company. Law number 3, thank you. Law number 3 is the law of influence. And this says your influence is determined by how abundantly you place other people's interests first. Now, again, this one sounds sort of counterintuitive. Place other people's interests first and you'll be, more influential. Actually, yes. The great leaders, top influencers, highest earning salespeople, this is simply how they run their businesses and conduct their lives. They're always looking for ways to think of the other person, to provide value to them. That's where their focus is. Now, let me clarify, though, or qualify this for a moment, because I believe this is very important. When we say place the other person's interest first, we don't mean you should be anyone's doormat. Is that a phrase, by the way, in Denmark that they would use?
We would use that as well.
Okay. A martyr or being self-sacrificial in any way. That's not what we mean by placing other people's interests first. It's just understanding that the more you can move from that I focus or me focus to, as one of the mentors in the story, Sam told Joe, making your win about the other person's win, That's the degree that you build trust with others. That's the degree that people know you, they like you, they trust you, they want to see you succeed, they want to be a part of your life. That, you know what I'm saying?
Oh,
And
yeah.
that's really what it's about. Now, the next part is authenticity. We've got to be genuine about that. And as and the law itself, the law of authenticity says the most valuable gift you have to offer is yourself. Deborah Davenport told the story, and she was one of the mentors in the story, of something she learned in her career, and that is that all the skills in the world, whether it's sales skills or technical skills or clerical skills or people skills or whatever skills, they're great and they're worth a lot, but they're all for naught if you don't come at it from your true, authentic core.
Yeah.
Now, when we do, now there's power to that, because people know who we are. They know they feel safe with us. They have more trust for us. One of the difficulties is sometimes, though, when we don't really understand our strengths.
Oh, yeah.
And you know what, Niels? The reason that happens is because we're human beings, and we're emotionally too close to ourselves.
Yeah.
We can't always know what those strengths are. So those strengths, those assets of value that we bring to an organization, we don't always recognize it. That's why coaches such as yourself are so vital, because sometimes we need a third party who can help us see exactly what we bring to the table, what our unique advantages and strengths are, because the way to be authentic is to lead with your strengths.
Yeah.
And when we do that, we feel confident.
Oh, yeah.
And we know we're bringing value.
Yeah. Actually, this refers back to an interview I did not long ago with a career transition coach, where we talked about strength and all these things. And an exercise that I did like 5 years ago when I was really down in a hole was to reach out to people. I sent out an email to maybe 30, 35 different people and just asked them about the top 3 things they thought about when I came to mind. And that was a scary exercise, but a very valuable one, because they, as you say, they saw things that I didn't see myself. So it's if you're in have that self-doubt and not really sure about, okay, what are my strengths, then that's a scary but really, really good exercise to do.
Absolutely. Yeah, and then law number 5 sort of brings it all home. That's the law of receptivity.
Yep.
And the law of receptivity says the key to effective giving is to stay open to receiving. This means nothing more than that while we know we breathe out, we also have to breathe in. It's not one or the other. We breathe out, we breathe in. We breathe out carbon dioxide. We breathe in oxygen. We breathe out, which is giving. We breathe in, which is receiving.
Yeah.
We get, and I bet this is in every country. There are so many messages we receive from the world around us, from media, from others that, if you make money, there's something wrong. You made it on the backs of others, and money's evil, and this and that. And that's so wrong. That's such a horrible message.
Yeah.
When you provide value to others, and you touch the lives of others in a positive, significant way, often through your products or services, through the work you're doing, you've earned the right to receive. That's how life works, okay? It's a flow. Give, receive. You've earned the right to receive. Now, we have to be able to accept it, though, because all the giving in the world, as great as it is, it's all for naught if you're not willing and able to allow yourself to receive in like measure. So the question should never be, am I a giver or a receiver? It's, I'm a giver and a receiver. Now, but here's the focus. This is the key. We go back to what we first said. The focus needs to be on the giving, right? Focus on the giving. Allow the receiving. And this is why John David Mann and I often say that money is simply an echo of value. Money is an echo of value. The value comes first. The money you receive is a very natural and direct result of the the value you've provided another.
Yeah. So true. So true. But I think you touched a little bit about this next question here. There's a misconception about being a go-giver, as you said, about being that doormat. Isn't it easy to be taken advantage of, though, when you have this kind of go-giver mindset?
Actually, not really. I mean, there's no reason that we should even that we even need to think that way, and I'll tell you why, Niels. You know, when someone, let's say they see the title of the book, right? They see the go-giver, right? What does it say? Oh, give yourself away, right? Don't right.
Go ahead.
Of course, that's not what it's about. Being a go-giver doesn't mean you give things away for free. I mean, it's part of a strategy sometimes. If you want to do that in order to bring that, that's fine. That's a strategy. That's not being a go-giver. It's not being a go-giver. But go-givers tend to make a big profit because when they sell or when they work, they're focused on value, not price. Okay. Being a go-giver should never be misconstrued as being a doormat. I mean, think about it. If you're focusing on bringing value to another person, why does that mean you should ever allow yourself to be taken advantage of? Yeah, and what I always say to people, if you are a go-giver, if you're constantly bringing value to other people, right? If that's your focus, and you find yourself being taken advantage of constantly, it's not because you're a go-giver. It's because you're doing things in such a way that you are allowing yourself to be taken advantage of. In other words, one has nothing to do with another. No. To allow yourself knowingly to be taken advantage of would be being a doormat, would be being a martyr, and that's not what it's about. No, it simply means that you focus on bringing value to another person. And in a free market-based economy, that's the best way to do well for yourself. Why? Because no one's going to buy from you because you need the money. They're not going to buy from you because you want them to. They're going to buy from you because they believe it's in their best interest to do so. How is that going to happen? When you're so focused on them that they know you have their best interest at heart. If you're looking for a job in a great corporation, they're not going to hire you because you need the job or because you want the job. They're going to hire you because they know you are focused on providing value to them and making it worth their while.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That doesn't mean you let them take advantage of you. It means you're focused on providing value to them.
Yeah. It's all, again, it's a great way to put it there. I mean, you don't get hired because you need a job. You get hired because of the value you bring to the corporation.
That's right.
That's awesome. One of the principles in the book is influence. And how does a go-giver create that influence, both personally and business-wise?
Sure. Well, you think about influence. What is influence, really? I personally define influence on a very basic level simply as the ability to move a person or persons to a desired action, usually within the context of a specific goal. Now, that's the definition. I don't know that that's necessarily the essence of influence. I think the essence of influence is pull, not push, right? You never hear someone say, wow, that Joanne, she is so influential. She has a lot of push with people. She is really pushy. Wow, she has a lot of influence. No, she has pull. Exactly. It's an attraction. Great influencers attract people to themselves first and then to their ideas. And they do this, again, not through push, not through pushing themselves or their ideas on others or being pushy, but through pull, which really pull is a very legitimate form of power, because what pull does and what power does is it attracts people and creates commitment to your ideas. Whereas when you push people or you try to compel people through compliance, I said this and I'm the boss and this is how you do it. Well, that's not a very, right? It's very difficult to lead or influence that way.
Yeah.
So how do you do it? How do you? Well, I think Dale Carnegie, in his great book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, among his brilliant statements throughout that book, I think this one was the premise of his entire book, and that's where he wrote, ultimately, People do things for their reasons, not our reasons. So the great influencer constantly asks themselves questions such as, how does what I'm asking this person to do align with their goals, with their wants, with their needs, with their desires? How does what I want this other person to do align with their values? And when we ask ourselves these questions thoughtfully, intelligently, genuinely, authentically, not as a way to manipulate someone else into doing our will, but as a way of building everyone in the process, now we've come much closer to earning that commitment. Yeah. And one of my great friends, great leadership teacher, Dondi Scumaci, I love this. She says, when it comes to leadership, when it comes to influence, compliance will never take you where commitment can go.
Yeah, that's powerful. That's really powerful. And I think that's pretty much what the authentic career branding is all about. It is, to help you draw people into you, pull people into you.
Yes.
By sharing what you're passionate about professionally. And I experienced that myself. Didn't know what I was doing back in 2012 when I started my blog, but I had a message that I wanted to share. And I experienced how that actually it pulled people to me from an industry that I'd never been in, and it gave me opportunities that I would never have been able to get if I hadn't done that. Got a meeting with the, Danish labor minister, and then got asked to do workshops and stuff like that because I shared some experiences that I had. Right. And that way created value for people in that situation that I've been in, and help them move through that. Exactly. And it's such a powerful way to attract opportunities, because you're gonna get opportunities in a way that you wouldn't anyway.
That's right.
So, do you have any suggestions to what's the best way to start serving others and create that kind of influence?
Well, the best way to start is just to start. And that's why in the story, remember the Pindar's one condition for Joe was that he had to apply each principle that very night before he went to bed, because it's very important to take action when we do things. So I would say to people, don't overthink it. Just look for ways to add value, touch lives, build your network, stay real, and be receptive. Now, but it also goes back to what we were talking about. What are your strengths? And you want to lead with your strengths. So if you have knowledge in a certain area, that's the best thing is to find ways to add value in that area to another person. Now, there's one other thing about this too. When we talked about value earlier, being the relative worth or desirability of something, that means value is subjective. And it also means that value is always in the eyes of the beholder.
Always.
So it's not what we think is of value. It's what they think is of value. And that's why asking the right questions and discovering these things allows us to provide value using our gifts and our strengths, but allows us to provide value in a way that that person sees it as being of value.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and that's to commit to just do these things will definitely set you apart in a big way, I think.
Absolutely. Well, like it did for you. Absolutely.
Yeah. And those things are the things that I'm actually talking about when I'm talking about career branding today, is to, with this shift that's been in the job market since the financial crisis and everything, it's just a matter of taking, everything, you got to make that mental shift as an employee more to a entrepreneur, actually. Or an
entrepreneur, an intrapreneur, whatever it happens to be, you've got to take responsibility for what you're doing, and always taking responsibility for finding ways to add significant value to the lives of more and more people.
Amen.
Yeah.
To that. That's very well said. And I think that's a perfect way to round this off. I'm gonna put some links down below to thegogiver.com where people can
Okay.
read even more about your book. And then you recently launched a podcast as well.
Yes. Yes.
I've been listening to that as well, and
Oh, thank
you've
you.
got some great things on there.
Thank you.
Definitely going to link to that as well. Again, if there's just one thing that you want to leave the listeners and the viewers with, what would that be?
Well, I guess it goes back to something that a person said to me years ago, about 35 years ago, a little more than that. And I think he saw me as someone with potential, but someone who was sort of like Joe in the story, right? Potential, but very focused on themselves and needed kind of a shift in that focus. And he said to me, Burg, if you want to do really well in business, he said, don't have making money as your target. He said, your target is serving others. He said, now, when you hit the target, you'll get a reward. That reward will come in the form of money. And you can do with that money whatever you'd like. But never forget the money is simply the reward for hitting the target. It's not the target itself. Your target is serving others. And I think that's the message I would lead with people. Have hitting the target have serving others as your target, and then be ready to receive the great rewards.
That is awesome. Thank you so much, Bob, for taking time to be with me here today.
My pleasure.
Really appreciate that, and I'm looking forward to following you even more and closely now that we're connected on LinkedIn as well.
Thank you. Likewise.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much. It was a pleasure.
Thank you. Pleasure's mine.